and software. So Paula is currently a member of the International Board of Directors. She's a judge specialist moderator for the Judge Specialist Committee. She's a certified expression judge, past president of Sweet Adelines. She sings with, where she directs Song of Seattle. And the best thing I love about her is she sings in Touchstone Quartet. Haha. Beth Smith is a certified sound judge and is currently the sound judge specialist on the Judge Specialist Committee. She sings with Pacific Sound. She's an amazing coach and has coached Touchstone. Yeah, that's my quartet. And she sings with Mood Swings Quartet, and she's also a music theory geek. So, Paula and Beth, take it away.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm just going to get us started off with a little intro and then turn it over to Beth in just a few minutes. But what I'd want to ask you is, we're going to talk today about some real world ways that you can read your judging sheets and understand where we're coming from and how, making it work for you, but so you can understand as well how the categories work together. Because sometimes you read the same comment on every sheet. They say you need to be more unified. So perhaps that would be something that you would choose to work on for that year. But we're going to talk about how the categories differ and how they're the same. So we kind of had this fun way, Beth came up with it actually, talking about the hardware of what we do and the software, and we decided it'd be fun to put together a class because she is decidedly hardware and I am decidedly software.
Typecasting.
Yes, so that's what we're going to talk about, is the judging categories and how the hardware and software categories fit together and complement each other. So we have a poll here, I believe, that's going to ask you what you think you are, if you're a hardware person or a software person. Now, you haven't heard the whole explanation, but just guess. So as those results are coming in, this works so well together because it does seem like we fall into two camps. There are those of you that are absolutely lit up by looking at the chords on the piece of paper and following the chord progressions, or looking at the very specific notes and the Pythagorean tuning of them all. And man, you get so excited about that. Look, we have half and half. That's pretty great. Well, then we're going to have a great time together, because here's my assignment for all of those that tend, like me, to live in the software world. I love that the hardware is there. I love the hardware. Do I want to know all the details and sink my fingernails into every chord? No, I don't. I want to know how it feels. I want to be able to share the message and really get into those embellishments and things that highlight a character and that kind of stuff. However, without the hardware, we can't accomplish it very well. Just on our computer, if you don't have the hardware to support the software, it doesn't work, right? So as we talk today, Beth is going to start us off talking about hardware. If you are one of the people that said, I'm a software person, this is your assignment for the next however long Beth is talking. And I do this because I do it myself. I want you to choose 2 or 3 things that she mentions to you. Well, she mentions to everybody, but it speaks to you thinking, I know I need to pay more attention to that. I know I need to pay more attention to where I octavate with other parts, or I need to pay more attention to this. And you're going to write those 3 things down, because at the end, I'm going to ask you to just say, for the next week, I'm going to look at my music through those 3 things. And we'll learn about our hardware together. Then, if you're a hardware person, we'll flip it around and ask you to do the same kind of thing with our software stuff that we talk about. So, you're on board. Write them down because at the end of Beth's presentation, I'm going to ask you to put them in the chat, just one of them that you're going to use. And it's over to Beth.
So, hi everybody. It's good to see everyone. Really kind of glad that it was a little bit of a smoky day today because it gave us a reason to be inside. Um, just want to make sure that my audio is on. Yes, it is. Good. Awesome. So, as Paula said, yes, I am a hardware geek. I absolutely dig all the theory things. In fact, Sandy Cahill knows that her previous class is just like right up my alley and was dinging every one of my bells. I love that that both hardware and software exist. And I kind of came up with this little analogy and way of thinking about the categories a few years ago. I always try to come up with some new way to approach my judging every year, something to keep me jazzed, something to get me thinking about the category in a new way, something to open up my eyes to other things going on with judging. And I get all of my great ideas in the shower. And one day in the shower, I had this epiphany about hardware and software. So it's been a thing I've been kind of exploring and talking about for 2 or 3 years now. And I'm just really glad that we get the chance to share the gospel with everyone else. So one of the things that hardware is a physical something. And in the computer world, it's actually the equipment. It is the computer. It is the hard drive. It is the keyboard. It is the router. It is the mouse. In singing, the hardware is the physical stuff. It is our body, which is our instrument. It is our voice. And it is the song. Because if we didn't have a voice or a song, we, of course, wouldn't have Barbershop. So one of the things that we need to think about when we start thinking about approaching a song is to actually look at the structure of the song. Is it barbershopable? Is it worthy of being sung in the barbershop style? Does it have a recognizable melody? Does it have a message that's family friendly? Is it singable? Does it suit the voices and the personality of the ensemble, whether that's a quartet or a chorus? You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot right off the bat by picking something either that's not suitable for barbershop, that's not singable because of the gymnastics or the difficulty. We don't give points for degree of difficulty like they do in diving. And we don't want to sing something that doesn't suit our style or our personality or the quality of our voices. So those are some things to think about. You know, it's easy when we go to contests and we hear a great song sung by a great quartet or a great chorus and we think, I want to sing that song someday. Or we get a CD and we listen to it and we sing along with the CD in our living room and we think, I really want my quartet to sing that song. Well, that's great when you're sitting in your living room or in the audience, but when the demands of the song actually impose themselves on your body, on your hardware, does your operating system allow you to actually execute that song? Does it have a lot of octaves or tuning challenges, or is it got a jazz flavor? Are you able to achieve all of those things? If you are not really good at tuning tightly voiced chords with a lot of rub notes together, then jazz is probably not for you. If you're really good at singing octaves or in tuning intervals in the Pythagorean tuning system, barbershop is for you. So it's really important that you are brutally honest with yourself about your voice and your capabilities. Then you need to also look at what is the chart asking you to do. What are the vocal demands being made on your voice? Is the melody line really jumpy? Do you have the capability in your range to smoothly navigate all of those jumps and twists? Does it push the extreme of your range? Is it too high for you? Is it too low for you? Does it sit right on your break? And we all know that leads and baritones live in that break zone, so God love you. Glad it's not me. Also, are we able to balance the chords for barbershop? Uh, if it is jumpy, if it is high and low, can the voices accommodate what it takes to balance those chords? Is the baritone above the lead a lot? Is she a high baritone? Is it a low lead? Is the tenor underneath the lead? Can she balance being underneath the lead? Is the bass line so low that it becomes muddy? These are all things that have to be thought about when you start to pick up a song. So, um, we're going to start out and talk about the categories. We have, first off, the sound category, which is, as I like to call it, the voice and what you do with it. All the things in my category are about assessing what your instrument, how your instrument is used, and what you are doing with it, the sound that comes out of it, and how it interacts with everybody else on stage with you. There are several elements that show up on all the different categories, and one of them is vocal skills. That's the top item on every single category. Another one is unity, and in my category, unity is the bulk of my category. So it's not a separate item on its own self, but everything in the left two columns applies to unity in the sound category. Energy is another one of the items that shows up on every category. In mine, it's vocal energy. So we have all these technical elements in the first two columns of the category. Those elements are mostly important to groups that are achieving at a lower scoring level. Once you start to move up into the higher scoring levels, you're achieving more in the artistic sound category because your instrument is more reliable. And so it does more of what you call on it to do more of the time. And so that's why a lot of times, year to year, depending on the level of your chorus or quartet, you may be seeing some of the same comments year after year because you're still achieving in the same skill level. And as soon as you can master those skills and start applying them together as a unit, the higher you'll score and the more you'll get to achieve over here in the artistic category. So hardware elements of the sound category are the left two columns, and the software elements of the sound category are over here in the artistic sound category. And I have to tell you that it's a lucky day indeed when I get to start to use adjectives over in the artistic sound category. So please take the time to work on your vocal skills and your unit application of all the other technical elements so that you can start to achieve in the artistic sound category, and let me use adjectives. Thank you for that commercial. Next, we're going to go to the music category, and the music category is the song and what do you do with it. So just as in sound, we have vocal skills over here in the performance area. We have unity. We have energy. The bulk of the scoring in the music category is the performance. The song and arrangement is 30 points. And so you might think, well, that doesn't predominantly sound to me like a hardware category if 70% of it is the performance. But you have to have the underlying foundation of the hardware, which is the song itself, and then what are you doing with it? So you're applying skills to the song, which also acts to be as a hardware kind of issue. The things that are software elements in the music category are harmony accuracy, the barbershop style, all of these elements in here, and musical artistry. So as you'll see as we go along, we have a variety of different ways to look at the different categories. They interlink and intertwine so beautifully. I know when I'm hearing something that's tempo related or rhythm related, that if I'm noticing it and it's making me crazy, it must be making the music and expression judges nuts. And I also know that they'll take care of it. I don't have to. I can focus strictly on my elements, which makes me happy because I'm a hardware girl and my category is really, really, really hardware related. All right, so sorry, I was just looking here at the chat. So any questions at this point on hardware? Again, we'll just reiterate. It's the voice and what you do with it. It's the song and what you do with it. It's the structure of the song lending itself to success as a performance vehicle. You don't want to be having a Nimbus 2000 computer and put a 1963 IBM mainframe operating system on it, because that will not be a successful performance of that song. You want to have the best hardware, the best up-to-date software, and your skills in play to utilize both for the most successfully integrated barbershop performance. All right, so, oops. I'm going to pass it off to Paula.
Okay, excellent. I was just responding to Sandy's question about what were the questions that I asked. So now is the time. My question was, if you're a software person, hardware people, your time is coming up, because you were geeking out with Beth. If you're, really into all of that hardware stuff. Software people, what were the 3 things that Beth mentioned, 2 or 3, that you want to put into your rehearsals starting this week? And I'm going to ask you to actually answer that on chat, because when we actually write it down and somebody can see it, we're a lot more likely to carry through with it. And so I'm just going to say mine out loud. I'm actually going to go through every piece of my quartet music and mark all of my octaves with any other part. And the second thing is I'm going to look at where I have either a second, third,
6 or 7.
6th or 7. Yeah, see, I need a hardware person to tell me what I'm doing. Those P notes that we want to sing higher, I want to mark those. Basses don't have tons of them, but we do have them, mainly on passing notes, and they're definitely there. So that's my 2. I'm just going to briefly look at what you have to say. Analyze the structure of the song more seriously. Great. P notes. Somebody says P notes. Yep. Music, energy, artistry, dynamics. Okay. Somebody's going to mark their music as well. I will tell you, as a software person, you're probably thinking, but I really want to be thinking about how to perform that song, how to communicate more authentically, how I can be more characterized. I want to be energized. All of those things just really fit into what we love to do. But as in most places in our life, when we lean heavily on one side of our personality, we need to put people around us that are the opposite, so that we can work together and learn from each other and get better at everything that we do. So you can go ahead and keep putting those in there as you will, because it's just great to write them down. It helps us remember if we just write them down. Okay, so if we talk about software, it's like the applications and the programs that you have on your computer. You have to have the right hardware, and you have to update it on an ongoing basis in order for the applications and the programs to work well. So the same thing is true of what we do. We need to continually update our vocal skills. We need to continue to go back and choose songs that are right for our skill level now, or the skill level of your group. So as opposed to the physical machinery, the software is untouchable, really. And that's kind of what we talk about in expression and showmanship. So guess what? When the software considerations we're looking at, almost the same one on the first one. Look at the vocal demands for your singers. It makes a difference on if you can accomplish it and become that singer that can communicate effectively. But we have to have the instrument. So just make sure you have your hardware in place for the song. Look at the technical demands. That's, again, some of the hardware. Is it really syncopated? I can tell you a long time ago, I sang in a quartet with a lead that absolutely adored jazz. She wanted to sing jazz songs all the time. And in her life's work, she was a band director. Her life was downbeat, always. And I'm here to tell you, 3 years in a row, we sang Jazz Baby on contest stage and got a comment about singing it in downbeat. So we needed to be honest with each other about the technical elements and what we could accomplish best. Because as a judge, I want to hear what you do best. I want to be able to say, these are the things you can continue to grow in, but I'd love to hear what you can do best so that we can reward what you know you can do best. So find the songs that raise you up to be the very best you can be. And then look at the lyrical and message demands in the character. In your ensemble, be it quartet or chorus, can you pull off that character? Can all of you pull off that character? Can all of you get into the lyrical message of the song? Sometimes it can become too emotionally charged for somebody because of what they're going on in their life right now. And so it might not be the right song for you right now, if that's the case. So, but that's a question those are questions you'll need to answer. So let's go back to the software thing, and then we'll look at our elements. This is the top of an expression sheet, and you will notice that our judging criteria is not split like music and sound are. It is 100 points total. We have technical elements, and we have the artistic interpretive plan elements, but all of them go in to create what you see down in the lower left-hand corner of musicality. It takes your best hardware and your best software to be truly musical in your delivery and truly be effectively communicating your lyrical and musical message. And that's what the showmanship judge is judging. So we do have hardware parts in our category as well, just not as many. So vocal skills, synchronization, and unity. Can you sing it together effectively? And even talking about vowels, which is, it's a skill we can all learn to do. It's not ethereal. It's an actual skill we can all learn to do together. So it's a little bit more technical, but those diphthongs, those vowels, even those consonants can become extremely artistic in the hands of a performer that knows how to use them and has the hardware to support doing it. Sometimes we know in our brain it sounds fabulous for us to do this long M, or we'll just use that as an example. But if your instrument or your hardware isn't supporting it with air as it continues, then it's not effective. So even the technical elements can be artistic. And that's why we have this 100-point total that we choose from for each song. So as we look at this, musicality bridges between technical and artistic, because once the technical elements really begin to become musical, you are entering into artistry and the software of all of that. Now, the definition of musical is difficult because if you look it up, it says, or musicality, I should say, if you look it up, it says the art of being musical. Well, that's not always very helpful in that but it is actually putting all of these elements together to actually communicate the most beautifully that you can using your hardware and your software. So these artistic lyrical elements are all incredibly important. Forward motion, people have become so much better across the organization in the last 5, 6, 7 years in the area of forward motion, because they're finally understanding it. It's not how fast you sing the song, it is how you connect to the lyrical intent. So sometimes the lyric tell you the person is getting excited. Beth would tell you sometimes that melody line is telling you that. And together, we really know. So it tells you to sing it faster. Sometimes it tells you to sing it slower. And that's what create forward motion is, does it propel you into your next thought that continues to engage the listener and communicate with them? Same thing. Dynamics are not in our category to show us how fabulous you can be at getting loud, getting soft, or doing it quickly. It is there to tell us how you are communicating this lyrical message. Sometimes we get in a certain level that we just want to show you how good we are at doing something, at doing this skill. And that's all that you show us. That's all you tell us is, I'm really good at getting soft suddenly. And yes, you are. Hooray for you. And that's probably a fabulous B. But if you want to move up in that, you have to not only embrace the skill to do it, but do it because the emotion of the song takes you there. And most dynamics need a journey. There are some times that suddenness works well, but most dynamic changes need a journey because our emotions take us on a journey. So, tempo and rhythmic elements, oh, so fun. Just make sure you know how to do them, or you have somebody in your group that can really help you learn. Syncopation is not all that easy, especially if there's a lot of it in jazz or some of the other songs that include a lot of it. So just make sure that you have everybody is teachable and can learn it, and you have somebody that can teach it to your group. And artistry, finesse, characterization. Characterization was actually added to the expression category back, I think, in 2012 when it was updated. Are you bringing your character to life by all of these things that are on this page? So, and emotional communication. So the crux of the expression category is communication of the lyrical and musical message. That's it in a nutshell. So let's go to the next one, the showmanship elements. Here we are. So as we look at this, you can see that again, you got two sides. At this point, they have 70% for the performance and 30% for the preparation. We tend to think of preparation as the hardware because you can do it all before you get there in general. But some of it is actually, there is software in it. Choreography, creativity. There's a lot of responsiveness to the emotion, to the story, to the message involved in doing that as well. So those can be software elements as well. It's not just about getting the choreographic moves on the right beat. Is it really telling the story we wanted it to tell visually? And then there, in the performance areas, there's some hardware. The vocal skills, the energy, even the poise and command. Do they walk out, have a lot of poise, command the stage? That can be taught. You can learn that as a technical element as well. So showmanship visually is more visually inclined, but they are always listening. So we have both a combination of hardware and software here as well. So you can see that all of the judging categories have both. Some just have a little more on one side or the other. In particular, posture is very hardware. Pitch pipe technique is hardware. So you can see on that side of the stage, that side of the score sheet, there's hardware and software mixed in there. Because characterization, physical expression, choreography, audience rapport, all of that tends to be software driven. So what I'd like you to look at now, this Strategies for Success is actually the next class that we're going to be headed to, but that's in just a few minutes. So first of all, I would like to ask the hardware people now to put in chat something that you're going to take into your rehearsals or your own personal rehearsal or music planning as you start working on it. What of these software things are you going to take and make sure you pay attention to?
So many great notes from the software folks about the hardware. Things they're going to try to integrate. Makes my heart very happy. Um, even with all of these myriad of items that you have to think about in putting a song together and putting a performance together, you should realize always that judging is a snapshot of where you are that day. We don't know you. We don't know what your intention was. We don't know what your plan was. When you got to the stage, we can only evaluate what you put in front of us. So, in essence, I've heard it said before, and it's really true. You tell us what score we need to give by putting your performance out there. And so you want to make sure that you have your best integration of all your skills, both hardware and software, when you get to the stage. So some of the software things that are going to be put into place are more emotional connection with the lyrics, characterization through a single lens, tell the story, embed the story, let dynamics be driven by the emotional journey. Well, doesn't that sound like somebody that sings with Paula? Make sure that the skill you're trying to demonstrate makes sense with the lyrical and emotional message of the song. That's so important. Expression and showmanship in particular talk about congruity of the message with what's going on. Not so much in hardware and software, I mean in the hardware categories. Work on tempo, sync rhythm with each singer. Dynamics is a journey, not sudden. That's really profound. Yes, it's not just a compulsory figure on a figure skate that you have to do and then dismount. It's something that you need to weave into your performance of the song. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I hope you all take a chance to go through the chat and see those great ideas, because it might spark something for you and your journey.
I can say that for at least me, I'll only speak for myself as a software person, the hardware elements can seem difficult for me and heavy. I mean, it feels like such a responsibility to learn all of those things and to get them on the stage. For hardware people, I can tell you, because I've coached plenty of you, or not of you, but of hardware people, it's equally, if not more difficult to get authentic emotion onto the stage.
It is physically exhausting to try to integrate software when you're a hardware person.
Yeah.
I don't care about all that emotional stuff. Tell me what I'm supposed to be feeling. Tell me what I'm supposed to be portraying. And I will try to integrate it to the best of my skills and abilities. But I have a really hard time just, automatically jumping into the character. Probably because I am such a hardware person that it comes through the filter of the song and what you can do with it. I get really caught up in the spots, and I don't stand back far enough to see the story.
So you can see it's equally difficult for both kinds of people. But just as in the judging category, we have to integrate in for the most successful performance. I did see a comment here from Judy Beckman that said, I start out thinking communication, and I usually have the chorus read the words as a poem first, but then I think I move to hardware and I too mark all the music and all that stuff. And then I think I focus on that at rehearsal. So I'll try hard to remember to keep the software communication going. I can tell you, and I'm sure that she would not mind if I mentioned this, because this was a very long time ago, probably 25 years ago. I was at a director seminar, and Betty Klipman was doing a class on the last 6 weeks of preparing for contest and how you handle that last 6 weeks and how it will affect your chorus and how you handle it. And as she was talking, she was taking questions or that kind of thing towards the end. And Kim Vaughn raised her hand, and it was a very large class. So she stood up and she said, I just realized I cost my chorus our gold medal.
Wow.
They didn't get it because of me. She said they had all the skills and I made them focus on the technical to the very end. And we were all crying. She was crying, we were crying, everybody was crying, because we all live that life sometimes. And of course, Betty just encouraged her and said, we've all been there, we've lived there. And now that you know that, it'll never happen to you again.
We all get so caught up in perfection, especially toward a competitive goal, that keeps us in the technical for way too long. And we need to do more enjoyment and have more joy in the performing of the skills sooner and longer. And that will be a better integration of both sides of the brain and both sides of the performance. I love Sydney Thompson. You're absolutely brilliant. She says maybe we should incorporate some acting classes to help us incorporate the software and the hardware. Yes, absolutely. I need practice because I tend to really want to just like focus on the technical till the last moment, and I need to enjoy the other. Awesome. Are there any other questions?
I just want to share one little thing because I'm getting all excited now. This is in another class I have, but I find it so meaningful for me in that we tend to start looking at the message of the song kind of after the intro. Sometimes the intro is a verse, but sometimes it's a ta-da moment, like saying, here we are, we're singing great, we've really worked on this intro, and aren't we doing wonderful? And then we start on our story after that. I would encourage you to begin your character or your story from the very moment you open your mouth, from taking the pitch. And the thing in your mind should be, what did somebody just say to me that I'm going to respond this way? If the first line of your song is, I want to go to Kansas, then the question in your mind should be, what did they just ask me that I said that? And why would I respond that way? That way you begin the song thinking about your story, thinking about the message you want to give, not thinking about, we have to do really good on this intro and make a big ta-da moment. And then it makes us wait for the story as your listener. So it's always about the message, and it's always about the listener getting it.
Plus, you really have to ask yourself, why do I want to go to Kansas? Right?
I don't know of a song that has, I want could be there. So that's just a little tip for any group that's in their songs. Why am I singing the song? If I'm in the middle of a conversation, what did they just say to me that came up that I would answer that way? So that's one of those acting technique things for musical theater.
In a former life, I worked in corporate arenas, and back in the 80s, there was a lot of going to seminars and getting in touch with different techniques and whatnot. And one of the most effective yet annoying techniques ever that I attended in a class was 5 levels of why. And it was to kind of get down to the nugget of what your motivation and intent was on doing something. And it's the same kind of thing here. As Paula said, why did they ask me to what they just asked me? Why do I want to do it? Why do I think I want to do that? Why would I make a choice to make this kind of outcome? So you keep asking yourself why until you get to the absolute essence of what's your motivation for being in this moment and in this situation and in this performance. And it can help you tap into some of the best personal, sharing your personal, authentic self in your performance. And that came from a hardware person, just saying.
Well, our next class is actually going to look at a couple of pieces of music and how each side, hardware and software, approaches it and how they can complement each other. And actually, you'll see even a difference in how we mark up our music. I do it very differently
Yes, you do.
than that was the first thing she asked when I sent her the paper. It was like, well, you do that differently than I do.
She uses a lot more colored pens than I do.
So, unless you have a specific question right now, we'll probably have some time for questions at the end of the other class as well. But if you have a specific question and want to ask, please feel free. Just unmute yourself and ask. We have about 3 minutes.
And if not, then we're going to see you again at 1:30.
Yep. So you get an extra 2 minutes for your break.
Yay.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Paula and Beth. See you all back at 1:30.